that kind of brings us to, populism, either on the left and the right. Do you think that poses a serious threat we should pay attention to in America?
Yes, because the populists have that tendency of making a lot of noise when they are in opposition, but then when they get to govern, they don't offer much of an alternative. They go, I think they go more. They want to basically to overthrow the system as it is. So this could be good or bad. Now, if you don't have an alternative in place, then it becomes a bad thing to just to say things that appeal to the people, or just one or two issues which are really important, for example, and then ignore that when you are governing. And it's always it always be a factor in more polarization, because we saw that with the Trump movement.
Right.
The Trump movement was a typical populist movement, and what caused for the Republican Party. We are still seeing that now. Let me add here something which I think is interesting. In the 2016 election, we saw the rise of populist candidates from both sides. Why? Because I think the people saw that the existing system was not working for them. And basically, when this was seen, it was seen with how the crisis of 2008 was managed.
Right.
Yeah.
With the way Obama administration administered the crisis, let everybody understand or see clearly that the system was not working for them. Not at all.
No.
You had the rescue of Wall Street, but you didn't have any rescue for Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
There was only one study at that time. It was, I believe, by the Boston Federal Reserve, which was a very detailed and concrete plan how to help Main Street. And then it went nowhere. Nobody talked about it. Also, they saw that, people can understand that, okay, the banks had to be rescued because we could not risk the collapse of the whole system. Okay, we are fine then. The banks had to be rescued. So no accountability for the banks. But
Right.
what people didn't understand was why no accountability for the bankers, which were the originators of all this. And this made everybody see clearly that the system was not working for them. And then you had those two populist movements. Then on one side, Trump managed to defeat the establishment. On the other side, Sanders was defeated by his establishment. But the main very interesting difference between the two, if you remember, was that Trump overcame the establishment not with policy, but with an attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Just calling names to everybody. Everybody was an enemy. Everybody is out to get you. I'll be the savior, etc., etc. You remember the language,
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas Sanders, he was a populist also, but he opposed the establishment with concrete policies. I mean, you can call them good or bad, but they were concrete policies. They were concrete proposals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that we know the rest what happened.
Yeah.
So that's the danger of populism.
I wanted to circle back to your point about Ross Perot. I think that's really I think Ross Perot is actually the case against having multiple parties. And I wanna take some things you said and kind of make some comparisons.
Mhm.
I think Ross Perot and his movement has more than 50%. But when you ask the question about abortion, when you ask the question about Black Lives Matter, you
Mhm.
see his coalition break apart. And that's kind of the same coalition you'd see with the far right and the far left. They might agree on some things to tame down Washington, but when you ask those cultural questions, they kind of break apart. And I wanted to touch
True.
on, you said in 2008, Obama, there was no accountability for the bankers, and the people on Main Street kind of got left out. And the
Yes.
case I would make for you there is that Hillary Clinton did not work with Bernie at all. Joe Biden in 2020 actually reached out to Bernie. Actually, he didn't pass $15, but he adopted it into his platform. Hillary did not. He
True.
did the American Rescue Plan, which got people checks, which extended the eviction moratorium, a lot of stuff that was on Bernie's platform. Bernie ended up being the budget committee chairman. He wasn't in the cabinet. I mean, I'm someone who supports Bernie, but I can see the arguments kind of against why also a third party to practicality wise in America is just tough, because if the Democrats split into a third party, then Republicans win. That's what we saw with Bill Clinton when Ross Perot
True.
ran.
Mhm.
That's what we saw with Woodrow Wilson way back in the day. But I just, it's really hard to, especially with Citizens United the way it is, like, and the way the Supreme Court is now, nothing's gonna change. So it kind of makes me a little pessimistic to the whole third party movement. But
I believe the most logical way forward for a third party would be for both centers to leave the parties and to get under the umbrella of a centrist party, which would have right-wing Democrats and left-wing Republicans, if you want. If it makes sense.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
a
But
little bit.
this would be difficult, yes.
Yeah.
And those would be the people who are not prone to see the members, or their political opponents as enemies.
Hmm.
Because those people exist in both extremes, which don't want any compromise and see everybody else as an existential threat. And there are people in the middle who do not see that, who see their political opponents as just political opponents, not existential enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the language that we hear today everywhere.
Right.
If this party wins, then it's the end of America.
Yeah.
Or if this other party wins, then that's the end of America as we know it.
Yeah.
We don't need that language.
Yeah.
But that's what gets traction. Then you have to go to the role of social media, which is a disaster on that side. But that's where we are, and that's why I say that if a centrist party with both centers would be the best way forward. But how viable or how possible, feasible is that?
Yeah.
I cannot say.
Right.
I mean, like you said, Social Security, Medicare, we think about the Christian Democrat platform that you kind of laid out earlier. Those things poll remarkably well in America.
Yes,
but I
they
think,
do.
yeah. So it's just the thing is, though, when you get into Congress, there's just different members, even people in the Democratic Party who will say socialized medicine is a one-way road to a communist, Marxist, Leninist, you fill in the blank state.
But yeah, but that's why I mentioned that language gets us nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Because they would say that this is the way they would say that we get to a communist dictatorship. Now, what's the problem with that? The problem with that is that it's simply that it has never happened in the history of the world. There are no cases of this. It was the same discourse when Reagan, I think, in 1965 or around there, he was talking about the great danger of adopting Medicare. And he expressly said, Medicare is one step towards big government socialism. And if we do this today, he said at that time, then we would watch our grandchildren talk about the past and see, hey, what happened to our great country. So there would be no more America, basically, if we adopted Medicare. So you see, it has been always the same discourse. Yeah, and they say it was the same thing with the famous death penalty of Sarah Palin, right? In 2009, it would be a big step towards
Oh yeah,
government taking over everything.
Affordable Care Act, yeah.
Affordable Care Act, yes. So this, I mean, all these things seem or sound very incomprehensible to our European, I mean, observers or whoever takes an interest in American politics. They cannot understand why it's such a divisive issue to get health care for everybody.
Right.
It's not comprehensible. And that's why I say that this way of presenting that everything that the government does, or everything that the government, every intervention, I would say, of the government in the economic domain is a step towards socialism, which is not true. It has never happened. I mean, you can say that any political system can gravitate towards another, or can be transformed in any other. But this is not only in the battle between capitalism and socialism, or democracy and dictatorship. Anything can happen, but to say that we know that we will end up there because we see Cambodia, we see Venezuela, we see all these absurd examples from the past. No, they are not related at all. There's no relation. So we have never seen an example of a successful Western democracy going that way and ending up in that socialist abyss by government taking over bits and pieces gradually of the national economy. We haven't seen that.